Hello, and this time on the Wills and Estate Planning podcast, we're talking all about will writing with Liz Killip from WillPower. Welcome back, Liz. How's it all going?
All right, thank you. How are you?
Good. Oh, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for asking. So we've got a list of frequently Googled questions here, so let's get straight into them then. First of all, and just for a little bit of background knowledge really, what is a will?
A will is it's a legal declaration of an individual's intentions to how he or she directs the disposal of their estate, and it only takes effect on death. And it's not a wish; it's a legal declaration, basically, in a nutshell.
Okay, brilliant. There we go. So I suppose the next question is, who needs a will, and when do you need to think about getting one?
You can actually make a will when you reach the age of 18. A lot of 18-year-olds might think they haven't got anything, but you can accumulate possessions, and it's surprising how much you get. Plus, if they're going to go abroad or travelling or maybe doing university abroad, might be a sensible step to have one. But on the whole, we suggest people make a will when they either buy a property, get married, or a civil partnership, have a significant partner, or something significant is kind of happening in their life. Having children is a big trigger, and it's because you would want to specify your children's guardians, because wouldn't necessarily go to people. You may want to specify who you want to look after them more so. And it's also, there are various things with guardians where it doesn't automatically go to the person you think they're going to be able to look after them. But we can go into that another day. Having grandchildren also might want to change your will, because you might want to leave specific things to your grandchildren. Divorce changes the effect you have on your will. So if you've got a will, it will mean that some things will be invalid. It won't make the whole will invalid, but there will be things that won't work once you get divorced. Remarriage, if you've got a will again, it means that you may wish to change your will to ensure that your children's inheritance are protected. A spouse or partner passing away can mean that your will may no longer be appropriate, and you may want to just tweak things on your will. But most importantly, you can only actually make a will when you've got mental capacity. You can't actually make one after you've lost any mental capacity. So yeah, basically, anyone over 18 can make a will, and there's no harm in making one at all.
Okay, so that's really, really interesting. And of course, you were sort of saying there that reviewing your will is so important, as well as at each life stage, I suppose.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so again, you've probably touched on it there a little bit, but what are the reasons for having a will people would like to know?
Well, one of the main reasons, if you don't have a will, you die. It's called you die intestate. So it's to avoid intestacy as much as you possibly can, because again, people think, it'll all go to my wife or it'll all go to my partner, but it doesn't. There are very strict rules on intestacy. So the reason to make a will, most importantly, is to ensure where your inheritance passes to, because it can allow you to distribute your estate in different shares rather than equally. It can help with inheritance tax planning. It can, if you've got a trust will, it can sometimes mitigate care home fees, which is so important to people these days. You can also put in like a succession of business interests if you had a business trust in the will. Also, intestacy doesn't allow you to exclude someone, and there are people who you may not wish to have in your will. It's a peace of mind, really, if you're making a will, for your protection for you and your family's future, so that once it's done, you can forget about it knowing that it's all in place. And your family will have clear directions onto how you want to deal with your affairs, and it reduces misunderstandings and disputes later on. So they're the main reasons for having a will. So
many, many reasons there, really. So what happens to my estate if I don't have a will then?
Well, again, it's called this thing intestate if you don't have a will. And when you die without a will, the law will decide who should benefit from, all the hard work and successes and things you've done throughout your life. You'll have no control, or your family or your friends will have no control whatsoever over who will inherit what you own, because the rules are strict. Spouses, partners, they don't receive everything. They'll receive a certain amount to begin with, and then proportion. And charities, friends, and unmarried partners receive absolutely nothing. It's only family that will receive everything. If you're legally married and you want your partner to benefit from your full estate, that won't happen. They won't, if there are other children or other benefits in this. There's it's like a big family tree of who will get which bits when you die intestate. If you're not legally married, then you wish your partner to inherit, then they won't under intestacy rules at all. Again, if you've got vulnerable dependents that you wanted to take care of, or young children or relatives, they may not necessarily benefit. So if you don't have a will, you can't make specific gifts of items or money or property to charities or friends. If you've got no living relatives, then you want to avoid the Crown taking the whole estate of everything you've worked for. If you're a parent of young children, you have no control of who looks after them should anything happen to you. In such circumstances, sometimes the court will appoint a guardian on your behalf, someone that you won't have chosen. So you really want to put these things in place that you really know who's going to be looking after your children and that they've got the same values and things as you. I mean, your family may have to use professionals to decide how the estate is going to be distributed under these quite complicated rules, and their charges could mount up considerably, leaving less for your family if you haven't got a will.
Okay. So lots to think about there, really.
There is, yes.
Lots to bear in mind. Now, we've got another point or question here that asks, wills aren't regulated. What does this mean?
Solicitors are regulated, but will writers don't have to be regulated. So the law in England and Wales allows anyone to write a will. It's so important to ensure that your will is legally valid and does what you want it to do by using a professional with expert knowledge. As I've said before, I think WillPower is a member of a professional body called the Institute of Professional Will Writers. And they were founded in 1991, I think, as a self-regulatory body to safeguard the public from kind of unqualified practitioners and unethical business practices. And the IPW has become established as the recognised professional body which regulates and promotes the profession of will writing in England and Wales. Because you can, as I say, you can get people who can come around your house and write a will who actually haven't taken any courses or are not regulated by this body. So in order to the IPW members, of which we are kept up to date with legislation and kind of industry developments, we're required to annually do a programme of something called continuing professional development. So we have to go and do so many hours of courses, learning about keeping up to date with what's going on, sharing different practices with other will writers. And it also enables us to retain our practicing certificate. And even though we're not regulated, being part of the IPW, we have professional indemnity insurance, which covers us for a minimum of $2 million for each will is written. So in order to ensure that our standards remain high, it's mandatory for WillPower to comply with the IPW Code of Practice, which is also approved by the Chartered Trading Standards Institute under its Consumer Codes Approval Scheme. That's what it means.
Okay, well, hopefully that sounds reassuring to anybody listening to this then. So thank you for that. Now, this next question is very interesting. Where should I store my will?
You need to keep your will somewhere safe and secure, it won't be damaged, destroyed, get water leaking on it, altered, or even lost. Because a lot of people actually, if they've made them a few years ago, actually forget where they've put them. Or, a lot of people actually sometimes they've gone in the recycling bin.
Oh, wow.
You should also ensure that your executors, these are the people that are going to administer your estate when you die, they know where to find your will and how to access it. If they can't find your will when you pass away, which has happened many times in this business, then you'll be deemed to have died that intestate word again, and your beneficiaries could lose out. So you should let them know in writing where it's stored, because it's very easy to forget verbal instructions. We all know that. It's quite important not to keep your will in a bank safety deposit box, because when you die, the bank won't be able to open your box until your executor receives probate, and they can't get probate without the will. So,
oh, goodness.
Kind of chicken and egg situation. We at WillPower, if we're storing your will for you in our storage facilities, then we send you a copy for your will to keep at home. And you and your executors will receive a letter explaining where the will is, how to get it, how to ring us up, and how we can send it off to you. Again, there's no charge for this. We provide a will storage service to keep your will safe from being, lost, damaged, a child pouring the orange juice over it or whatever. That wouldn't make it legally valid, but it might make it a bit sticky and difficult to read.
That's true.
We also, with the storage we do, you can actually store any documents, again, with no charge. Once you've set up the storage agreement, like deeds or list of assets, or some people want to put letters into their family, policy documents, they can all be stored in our secure vault, which is a climate-controlled vault, regulated with temperature and airflow and moisture and dust to preserve your documents for many years to come, hopefully. Will security, we've got state-of-the-art fire and intruder alarm protection, CCTV camera cover, electronic access controls. We have a barcode will tracking system, so it's computer-controlled movement history to ensure your documents can be really quickly and efficiently got out whenever you need them. And again, as I've said before, there's no charge to add or remove documents as much as you want from the storage in the future, and they're always delivered by special delivery for security.
Wow. Well, there's a lot that goes into storing a will to keep it safe. So it's very, very important, isn't it, to know where your will is and what you're doing with it. Okay, so moving on then, what's the cost of having a will written?
There's actually no charge for the appointments when you talk to one of our consultants or talk to us on the phone in the office. But if you do decide to go ahead with one of our wills, then a standard will for a single person is 120 plus VAT. And for a joint will, which is a couple, it's 160 plus VAT. But we've got our pricing list on the website, which shows prices of maybe more complex trust wills that you may consider once you've had the discussion with a consultant.
Okay, there we go. And that is at the time of recording this episode in July 2023. Now, this is very brave, Liz, if people were to do this, but what are the dangers of writing my own will?
The document called a will is only capable of disposing of someone's estate if it's written in a certain form and attested means signing it and witnessing it in a certain way. And if there are one or more elements are missing, it would be void and completely useless. And the law is therefore very specific, and there was a Wills Act in 1837 outlines what is the lowest standard of acceptance of what a will needs to be in order to be lawful. People can sometimes think they can sit in their armchair and write a will, but as professionals, we ensure our clients' wills valid throughout all our long expert knowledge and training. I mean, there is a temptation to make a homemade will, mainly because it's perceived to be cheaper, but this can be really risky. If a will isn't prepared correctly, it could be invalid, which in the long run makes it much more expensive and complicated for the people that you leave behind. And upsetting when someone dies and then they've got to deal with this whole thing which they know nothing about and how to go ahead with it. But if they've got a professionally made will, then it makes it so much more easy for them when they're grieving. Wills have got strict rules about the way they're made and how they're executed. Again, executed means how they're signed and witnessed, and errors are so easily made. And if a will doesn't comply with these strict provisions, it will be invalid and it will be rejected by the probate registry. So you have to ensure that the will is signed and witnessed correctly, and if there's mistakes made or alterations, how you deal with those alterations on a will. Other problems arise in relation to the actual wording of the will. Many words and terms have specific meanings in law, which are totally different from their everyday use. And when people are tempted to alter their homemade wills after they've been signed by simply crossing out sections and amending them, it's unlikely that any of these alterations will be valid. Often important information is omitted from homemade wills because you just wouldn't know what you've got to put in. It's also very easy for ambiguous or imprecise wording to be used. And again, as I said before, important details can be omitted or sections to be written in a way that can be misinterpreted. And if there's any uncertainty as to the construction of a will, any or all of it could be invalid. Homemade wills appear to be of good value. However, in reality, they often don't carry out wishes and cost more in the long run, as I've said. Actually, in the region of like 90% of all litigation in relation to wills relates to homemade wills. Best come to WillPower.
Wow, that's definitely something to bear in mind there. I mean, it's a minefield, isn't it? So, yeah, lots to take in there. Okay, so how do I go about arranging a will then? But I'm guessing this is where, Liz, you at WillPower can come in.
Well, if you go onto our website, you can get our number and give us a call, or you can email through the inquiry form on the actual website. And we'll get back to you within a couple of days, hopefully the same day. And then we'll chat to you about what you want to do, what you want to achieve. You can make an appointment there. You can go away. You can think about it, go and call other people. But we could arrange a no obligation appointment with one of our expert consultants who've been working for WillPower for many, many years and have dealt with so many different situations. And they'll discuss your circumstances, and with your agreement, they'll start the ball rolling and prepare your will, send the instructions to the office, and then you'll get your draft will, and likewise with LPAs.
Okay, there we go. And I suppose just in summary, really, Liz, how can a will writer help? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just basically, as I've said before, will drafting is a really highly specialised field, and there are hidden complexities not appreciated by individuals or catered for in a homemade will. Repeat again, a professionally drafted will from WillPower can save a significant amount of money in the long run and can save your loved ones a substantial amount of stress and heartache at the end when they're also dealing with having to arrange funerals and being bereaved, basically.
There we go. Well, thank you once again, Liz. Hopefully we've helped a few people out on the episode, and I'm sure we'll catch you on the podcast again very soon.
Okay, bye-bye.